everyone, I'm Andy,
And I'm Mark.
and this is Strange Stuff Podcast.
Yes.
And it's a beautiful, bright and sunny morning where I am.
Have you got the same up with you?
No, I mean, it's
Pouring.
beautiful and sunny.
Oh, is it?
It's like-
no, it's blowing a storm here.
We're having like 20 degrees today
All right.
and yesterday.
Well, we had that yesterday. Yeah. Now, I don't want to worry you,
Mhm.
and we're not in a rush, but it's uploading at 2%.
I wouldn't worry about it.
That's what you said last time, and look what happened.
Yeah, I know, but I don't know what I can do from here. You said that Alex had fixed your computer.
Yes, he did. Well, he did. So everything's updated.
Updated.
And I've turned everything off. Actually, the only thing Spotify is closed. Outlook is it's restarting now. I'm pressing the button, so that was closed.
Well, I can tell you that on my screen you are 84% uploaded.
All right. Okay. So we don't have to worry.
No, I shouldn't think so.
All right. Because it was a bit frustrating last time.
So last time where we had to scrap our episode, and then
Yes.
I made my way down to Mora. So this is, in fact, the first episode that is in my new apartment.
That's right. Yep. How exciting for the listeners that you are in a new apartment, because it makes a big difference.
You can listen around the room.
Yeah, exactly. What's that? Black. Oh, I see. That's your TV. Yep. Yeah, you got your TV in.
Everything's in.
Your new wipe clean. No, well, not new to you. Wipe clean sofa, which is always useful.
Oh, wipe clean. I thought you said white.
No, wipe clean leather.
Yes. Very comfortable. I've already slept on it.
Have you? Why would you sleep on your own? Oh, you mean fallen asleep in front
Yes.
of the TV sort of thing?
Yes.
No,
Yes, it's very easy.
That's acceptable. But yeah, so of course we had the pleasure of your company down here. And Robin, obviously.
Yes, he was very grateful for the hospitality.
It still amazes me that you drove 3 hours south of here simply to have a KFC, and then drove, I assume, 12 hours to get home.
Yes. Got home around about 9:30 in the evening.
Oh, well, that's not too bad.
Well, to my house anyway. Robin still had another 20 minutes to go, but stopped him for a cup of tea.
Yeah, but what time did you have
bear
at
in mind
McDonald's then?
that we left at 8 o'clock or something to get to KFC. So
At 11.
We were in Uppsala, but no, I would say we were there around about, maybe it was 11:30. But the trip from Uppsala up to Skellefteå is more or less the same as Mora to Skellefteå.
Ah, because you got the E4 the whole way, basically.
Yeah, I mean, and also we went more sideways than south, if you know what I mean.
All right, okay, fair enough. And so, sorry, you walk into KFC and you say, I've just driven 9 hours to get here. What did you order? A bucket of 16 rat feet or something? What did you order?
No, I ordered 3 pieces of chicken and chips and some chicken tenders.
Which is what?
It's just basically filleted chicken with a dip.
Filleted chicken?
Yeah, in breadcrumbs, in a special recipe thing.
Filleted
chicken. When we left, I took a bucket of 12 pieces with me. Robin took 2 buckets. So the whole car was full of smuggled chicken.
Oh, God, it must have smelled delightful when he got home. So have you put them in the freezer?
They've all been gone. They've been eaten. They're gone. There's nothing better in the world than Kentucky
The
Fried Chicken.
ridiculous thing is, shock me with how much you spent, because KFC is
don't.
not cheap.
No, it was, I mean, a
What
bucket
did you
of
spend?
chicken.
50 quid or something on chicken?
Easy. A bucket of chicken in London last time I was there.
20 years ago.
Which was 18 pieces, I think. 6 portions of chips and a 2-litre bottle of Coke was about 20 quid.
And
here, for just 12 pieces of chicken, it was 300 crowns.
yeah, 25 quid.
Plus the 100 and odd for my meal. So, yeah, London is a far better proposition, but it's even further to drive.
You're right. That is 1,000 miles, as the crow flies.
As the fro flies.
As the fro cries. Oh.
But it was enjoyed, and we both took a vote, and we decided it was worth every kilometre.
Really?
Yep.
Of my electricity. You got there on my electricity, as I recall.
We stole from Ian and Andy as well. We fully charged.
Good. Oh, dear.
I mean, it was actually quite a reasonable, because we had somewhere to stay, the whole weekend was very affordable.
Yeah.
It makes all the difference in the world.
Well, you haven't got my bill yet.
I'll pay it when I get my memory back.
Yeah, well, it was a bit of fun. The pop quiz, not pop quiz, what do you call it? Pub quiz.
The cheaty.
I mean, 23 out of 24 correct.
I know, it's just, I'm sorry, but I'm not washing. That doesn't wash with me.
Yeah, they must be professional quiz takers or something.
No, they're cheats. That's the end of it. There's cheating going on. Because the 3 teams that beat us had 22, 23 and 24.
Yeah, nearly, yeah.
They were within 1 point of each other, and we had probably 18 or 19.
Yeah.
And we're not stupid. Well, we're not that fucking stupid. Anyway.
Oh, dear. Yeah, so you spent... Well, in that case, so you did spend actually 12 hours in the car, but that included the trip to...
But it's 13 hours probably total.
Yeah.
We had a bit of a... When we left the house in the morning, Robin wanted a coffee, so we stopped at McDonald's.
Yes, cafe.
Where he had his coffee. And then he decided he had to have his morning dump.
And where did he do that?
In McDonald's.
Oh, well, lucky for him.
I kid you not, I read an entire newspaper and went through Facebook and was halfway through the entire library of Pornhub by the time he came out of the fucking toilet. He was a minimum 20 minutes.
Maybe he'd been saving it up. Maybe he didn't have a dump at my place or Andy's place, Andy and Ellen's place.
No, he does that at work as well.
Oh, really?
He disappears for like half an hour, and it's regular, it's clockwork. You say, "Where's Robin? What time is it?" "Oh, yeah, don't worry."
Oh, dear. Anyway, he was an interesting chap, Robin. Obviously, I'd never met him before.
Yeah, you did scare him a bit with your debating.
Yeah, I mean, I always enjoy those sort of conversations. And to be honest, it's always very entertaining for me to meet someone who has completely contrarian views on everything. I mean, that I get entertainment out of that. And I understand some people don't. But anyway, I hope I wasn't too harsh on him.
He survived.
Yeah. And he got to stay the night. And I got to test drive his Tesla. So...
Yes, and you even changed your mind on the Tesla.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, as I say, the only reason I wouldn't buy one is because of Musk, not because of the car itself.
Which is a bit silly because it's really very little to do with Musk in the big scheme of things.
Well, no, every new Tesla sold is putting money in Elon Musk's pocket. But
I have increasingly empty pockets.
Increasingly. But of course, what I have realised is that if you buy a very old Tesla with free charging, it's costing him money.
So is that the plan then?
I don't know.
We're going to find a 2000. Is it 2006?
No, I don't know. It has to be. I think it's the one that my friend has. I think it's a Model S, which is a big old beast.
But there's still make Model S.
No. But but it's Model S from 15 years ago. Oh my God, there's a mosquito. Model S that has free. He has free charging. When he bought the car, it was and still is free charging.
And it will be for the lifetime of the car. Does that include when you put a new battery in it?
Well, you wouldn't put in. I can't imagine what a new battery pack for a Model S is, but they go for sort of like 50, 60, maybe 100,000 kroner. And the battery pack would probably cost you 400,000 kroner, so you just wouldn't do it. Though, in fact, it's not too crazy an idea. It depends how much mileage you do, obviously.
I mean, free charging for life.
Yeah. So anyway, so that was interesting. Other than that, I'm doing on the last week of my rowing course.
Oh, that's probably why you wanted to change the time, because you're going to be rowing tomorrow at 5:00.
Yeah, we weren't doing it at 5:00. It's 10:00 tomorrow morning.
No, we were going to do it at 5:00 in the afternoon.
No, we were going to do it at 10. I've got the messages.
Okay, maybe.
No, it's just I'm always less likely to be doing stuff in the morning, whereas the evening, you know what my social schedule is like.
No, but you're actually more likely to be doing stuff in the morning, because that's when people build fucking walls in lakes and things.
Yeah, that's true, actually. But no, that's all sorted, even grassed. No, at the moment, I'm building my garden shed. And I've got to put the roof on now. So I've got to have a few dry days, because you can't put roofs on in the wet.
Right.
But yes, other than that, what else is going on? Well, of course, you've got Trumpy World.
Is anything happening with Trump at the moment?
Absolutely. His big, beautiful bill. It went through Congress, was passed up to the Senate. They approved it by one vote, who was Hexeth. He had the casting vote. Now it's going back to Congress with all of the amendments, and it still looks a bit dodgy. Whether it's going to pass or not, I mean, obviously, I hope it doesn't. But I wonder what the people who voted for Trump, who are going to lose their medical benefits, think now. If they're so far down the rabbit hole that they still think, great idea. Oh, I've just been shafted. I mean, it's literally like turkeys voting for Christmas.
Yeah.
But, the billionaires are going to benefit. That's for sure.
Well, that's
good.
The main thing.
It is. That's good.
I mean, Jeff needs to make a couple of quid back after his wedding.
That's right. In Venice.
That didn't cost a few quid, much.
34 million.
Fucking ridiculous.
And I have a feeling that wasn't Venice one of the cities that had like 38 degrees or 42 degrees or something crazy. That must have been very uncomfortable.
They're having 30 degrees in London yesterday.
34 when Mike went back a week ago.
Yeah, because I did a recording with Richard yesterday, and he was sweating like a paedophile at a children's playground.
Oh, nice. A nice analogy. I'm sure Richard appreciates that. But yeah, so there's bits going on in Trumpy world. What's going on? There's possibly a ceasefire in Gaza.
Nothing to do with Trump.
No, nothing to do with Trump. And Ukraine has taken a bit of a back seat. Yeah. So, there's plenty going on, but it is the summer. You know how things change in Sweden in the summer. Everybody's out and about, almost socialising. I went out for an ice cream.
Did you go to Glassbåten?
Yeah, a couple of nights ago. It wasn't exactly heaving.
Do you know what? If they opened a fucking bar on that boat, they would make a fortune.
Yep. This is really going to annoy me, this fly. And I just can't, I'm not quick enough to kill it. Yeah.
Don't you have one of the tennis rackets
I do, actually. All right, so here's a question for you, talking about comparing KFC prices. 2 balls of ice cream,
Yeah.
a topping...
Scoops.
2 scoops of ice cream, a bit of soft ice cream topping with chocolate, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Sprinkles, and a drink.
In Mora.
Give me a price.
170 crowns.
Oh, all right. Okay, well, you weren't far off. It was 135 kroner.
Oh, okay.
You know, that's a tenner.
It's madness.
That's 10 quid for 2 scoops of ice cream, a bit of a topping, and a drink.
Yeah, but the boat was sold for 1 million crowns a couple of years ago. They got to scrape that money back somewhere.
Was it? It was sold, was it?
I think so. It was up for sale anyway.
All right.
For 1 million crowns. How the fuck can you make 1 million crowns selling ice cream? Oh, you've just told me.
Yeah,
10 quid a pop.
Yeah, I mean, you know, if you have, all you need is, 100? No, they got to have more than 100 people over the course of a day.
Bear in mind that the ice cream season is about 3 weeks long.
That's actually... Oh!
Did you get it?
I nearly did. He's a persistent bugger. Yeah, you're right. I mean, yeah.
I mean, do they have to store that outside the lake, obviously, in the winter? How the fuck do you lift that out?
They just tow it to some harbour somewhere, I'm sure. Yeah, you wouldn't want to lift that.
No, can you imagine it just snap in half?
I think it's even got a cloakroom. I think it's got a bathroom in there. Well, it's not a bathroom.
Above water. I bet raw sewage is right out into Lake Scillian.
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
So yeah, that's about the extent of the excitement. A bit of carpentry and the odd ice cream, and that's about as exciting as it gets in Mora. And your visit, obviously.
Well, I made a discovery which leads us to this week's subjects.
Slavery.
No, we that was our failed subject last time. We'll come back to that.
But why have you still got Overseer and Kunta Kinte on my screen?
I told you those titles will stay there until we change them. We're the only ones who can see them.
All right.
It doesn't matter. No. I was thinking about why Trump decided he wants to sort of land grab all over the world. And it turns out that Greenland in particular has a little bit of a reason. Because shortly after developing the first atomic bomb in 1945, the United States was the sole nuclear power in the world.
Yeah.
For 4 years. But in 1949...
Who was second?
The Soviet Union.
All right.
In 1949, the Soviets tested their first atomic weapon, rocketing into the Cold War era that we are so familiar with.
Oh.
Now, as they both scrambled for an edge, the Americans began to develop a top secret project to hide nuclear weapons in the Arctic where they could easily strike at the Soviets. And they called it Project Iceworm.
I'm going to write that down.
Because you're going to
do some
fact check me. Yeah, I knew you were going to do that. But that's fine.
Arctic worm.
Iceworm. And guess where Iceworm was located?
Could it be Greenland?
Indeed. But Greenland's ice sheet is in itself quite powerful, as we'll find out. Now, by the 1950s, the Cold War had begun to gain steam as both the US and the Soviets had nuclear weapons. But storing nuclear missiles inside the United States came with quite significant risks, as those locations would be targets and they could be attacked. So, at the end of the decade, the US Army came up with a plan to build this secret nuclear missile facility in Greenland. Go on.
One would assume that it was on they do have a base in Greenland, don't they?
Well, this is it. A 1951 agreement between the US and Denmark allowed the Americans to build air bases in Greenland, which then and now is an autonomous Danish territory. But the Americans wanted to go further. The US Army wanted to build an underground nuclear facility where the missiles could be stored. So this ambitious Project Iceworm called for 52,000 square miles of tunnels under the ice.
No.
Around 3 times the size of Denmark.
No.
Trenches positioned 4 miles apart would hold 600 mobile missiles which could be moved around the facility. And 11,000 soldiers would live beneath the ice, ready to strike when needed. Now, I think Donald Trump read about this and thought, I'm going to have that. And that's why he's got his fucking peepers on Greenland again. Now, according to a 1960 top secret document from the US Army Engineer Studies Center, Greenland was the perfect site for nuclear weapons. It's just 3,000 miles from Moscow, putting missiles in easy striking distance of US targets. The missiles of Project Iceworm would be underground and easily moved to avoid detection, and the site guaranteed second strike capabilities if the Soviet Union actually fired nukes at the US first. The missile force is hidden and elusive, the report, recorded by the Atomic Heritage Foundation, stated. It is deployed into an extensive cut-and-cover tunnel network in which men and missiles are protected from weather and, to a degree, from enemy attack. The deployment is invulnerable to all but massive attacks, and even then, most of the force can be launched. Concealment and variability of the deployment pattern are exploited to prevent the enemy from targeting the critical elements of the force. So they broke up the pattern of the movements of the missile, or that was the plan, to break up the pattern of the movements of the missiles between the various launch areas so that you couldn't predict where they were going to launch from first, second, third, and fourth. It's quite clever, but 52,000 square miles of underground tunnels.
Yeah, that's not right.
That's just not even possible.
I am reading here.
No, I don't want you to contradict me while I'm fucking doing my podcast. That's just not on. You do not anti-research me. According to the Atomic Heritage Foundation, the US floated the idea of the facility to Denmark in 1958. And when the Danish were non-committal in their response, the Americans decided to just move forward with Project Iceworm.
They must have noticed.
Well, Greenland is basically empty.
Predominantly, yep.
But it only worked if nobody suspected the hidden ballistic missiles. So the army invented a cover story.
Ah, and that was gardening.
In 1958, construction began at Camp Century, a scientific research site run by the Americans. But the scientific site was actually a cover for the underground nuclear facility built under Project Iceworm.
Mm.
Building Camp Century posed challenges from the beginning. First, engineers had to build a road through the ice. Then, they had to transport thousands of tons of supplies via bobsleds, which could only move at 2 miles an hour. A bit like a rocket launcher. That meant that the trip from Thule Air Base took 70 hours. Next.
The thing is that I'm looking at my world map.
Mm.
They should have put it, they made a fundamental mistake. They should have put it on the other side of Greenland. Because Camp Century is on the west coast of Greenland.
And Moscow is on the east side.
And Moscow is on the east side. So they are close to Siberia, which is just a desert in Russia.
But Siberia is probably where the Russians have located a lot of their missiles.
Ah, that's an interesting point. Yes, you might be right.
Because you don't want them outside the doors of Putin's number 10, as it were.
No, that's a good point. All right, yeah, okay. So we'll forgive the American strategy on that account.
So next, engineers had to dig trenches into the snow and the ice, cover them with a roof of steel arches, and then top them up with snow. They could have just waited for that. It's pretty much guaranteed that the snow will come.
Oh, I don't know how often it snows in Iceland.
They get around 4 feet a year.
That was pretty impressive, Andy.
I told you, I do my research, mate.
So that's about the same amount of snow we get here?
Probably. Not quite as much as I get.
No, you probably get 8 feet of snow.
Yeah. From there, they created a network of underground buildings, and the longest trench became known as Main Street, and it was 1,000 feet long, which isn't actually that long.
No, 1,000 feet, that's not
300 meters. It's like...
Yeah. It's not 5,000 square miles, is it?
52,000.
52,000 square miles, no.
But eventually, the engineers built 26 tunnels, which stretched across 2 miles and led to dorms, a cafeteria, a hospital, and a rec hall.
Cinema?
In the recreation hall, there was probably a projector.
Brothel? Absolutely,
it's America. Probably under the guise of Hooters.
Oh, I see, the restaurant chain.
Yeah.
Hooters, yeah.
Oh, yeah, we've got a Hooters.
What's that sound? What's that?
That's
Money.
dollars for the stripper.
Aha, okay, yeah. They don't have strippers in Hooters.
So eventually, the nuclear city would have the hospital, the school, and a movie theatre. And starting in 1960, a nuclear reactor powered Camp Century, and engineers planned to install 2 more reactors to keep things running.
Who would want to live there? Literally, you're under a mountain with a nuclear power station and nuclear missiles.
If you've signed up for Uncle Sam's fucking silver dollar, you haven't got much choice. 11,000 of you are going to live there. So in order to maintain the cover story, the army even released a documentary about the city under the ice to show that they had nothing to hide. But they did have something to hide.
Aha.
Camp Century under Project Iceworm was built to hold enough medium-range ballistic missiles, or MRBMs, to destroy 80% of targets in the Soviet Union and Eastern Europe. It would have been a formidable nuclear site if it had ever been finished. But it quickly ran into some fairly major problems.
For cold.
That's one of the problems you're going to have anyway in Greenland. But the operation required 52,000 miles of tunnels, but only 2 miles were ever constructed.
Thank you. So now we're getting to the reality of the situation.
Well, this is why it didn't work.
It's slightly different, isn't it? 52,000 miles of tunnels as compared to 2.
Yes, but the concept and the reality are always different. It's a bit like Norfolk.
Yeah, you're right.
But the problem they were having was that the 2 miles that they constructed kept collapsing under the pressure of the ice sheet.
What? So their engineers weren't even able to come up with a tunnel strong enough?
Greenland ice sheet is, I guess, always moving. It's not exactly permafrost. And
well, it is permafrost.
Well, it is permafrost, but it's mobile permafrost. So it's movable permafrost.
No, but anyway.
What's more, the engineers had planned to run the city on nuclear power, but the temperatures in the frigid wastes could crack metal increasing the risk of accidents.
And you need water to cool a nuclear reactor. And where does the water come from?
You're surrounded by water in its frozen state.
In its frozen state, yeah.
Beyond the challenges of building Camp Century were the challenges of operating it. The environment in Greenland was harsh on the best days, but temperatures could hit -70 Fahrenheit, not Celsius, and the winds would whip by at 120 miles an hour.
What do you reckon -70 is in real money?
Divide by 2 and -18, and you're close.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yeah, it'd be about -20.
No.
Go on then.
Well, I know because I remember calculating it. -40 degrees Fahrenheit is what in centigrade?
-2.
No. -40.
What?
-40 degrees Fahrenheit is -40 degrees centigrade.
Is it?
Yep.
Okay.
The two lines intersect.
Google me -70 degrees Fahrenheit in centigrade.
What, Google? How do I do that? Can I ask
Just
Siri?
put it in your... No, just... Yeah, you could ask Siri.
Hey Siri, what is -70 degrees Fahrenheit in centigrade?
-56.67 degrees Celsius.
-56. That's
Yeah.
pretty damn cold.
Let me just ask this. Siri, hey Siri. What is... Hey Siri. What the fuck?
She dumped you.
Only allows me to ask one question. Hang on. Hey Siri. What is -40 degrees Fahrenheit in centigrade?
The answer is -40 degrees Celsius.
Thank you.
Sure thing.
Sure thing. It's a bit...
Ultimately, Camp Century proved to be a bit more trouble than it was worth. The facility's single nuclear reactor only functioned for 33 months, as opposed to infinity, which nuclear power is supposed to be.
Indefinitely, I think, is the word you're looking for.
No, I said what I said.
Infinity.
And the
That's a
nuclear
number.
city... No, infinity means forever.
Indefinitely means forever, doesn't it?
Infinity is forever.
I thought infinity was a number,
No,
but relating specifically to numbers.
I don't think so.
Anyway,
I don't know. Maybe it is a mathematical term. Well, it is a mathematical term, but infinity is never ending. So it can be adapted.
will things wear out?
No. What about gravity? Perpetual
No, what-
motion, mate.
What is that law of physics where everything turns to sand? There's a law in physics where everything just basically eventually collapses and returns to its component elements.
I have no idea.
There's a word for it. Anyway, sorry, carry on.
So the nuclear city, meant to house 11,000 soldiers, never had more
30.
than 200 inhabitants.
200. I'm impressed.
The military cancelled Project Iceworm in 1963, which was a fortuitous year, because that was also the year that I was born.
That's right. That's probably why. They thought, Andy's arrived. We don't need wars anymore.
So though the public didn't learn the truth about Camp Century until the 1990s.
6.
Stop fucking researching my research. We're going to fall out big time. But the top secret military project would have long-lasting implications for the entire world. After ending Project Iceworm, Camp Century continued to operate on a limited basis until 1966, and with its annual snowfall of 4 feet. However, the abandoned nuclear city was increasingly buried under snow and ice. Its tunnels eventually collapsed completely, and the US Army moved out for good. But they did leave behind, like good tourists, several tons, thousands of tons of hazardous waste. The Army thought that the snow would bury the radioactive coolant diesel fuel, and wastewater. A 2016 study, however, showed that they were wrong. Camp Century waste stretches the size of 100 football fields, and Arctic warming will expose the waste by the end of the century. They thought it would never be exposed, climate scientist William Colgan told The Guardian in 2016. Back then, in the 60s, the term global warming had not even been coined, but the climate is changing. Cyclic. And the question now is whether what's going on down there is going to stay down there.
Oh, dear.
And that's the first of our American top secret projects that we were talking about today.
What? There's more than one?
Oh, yeah, I got two. The Greenland one, that's the interesting one from Trump's point of view. I think Trump has looked at this and thought, I can do that. And I'm not going to do it 52,000 square miles. I'm going to do 150,000 square miles. It's going to be the biggest underground secret base that nobody's ever heard of.
Funny enough, they haven't actually talked about Greenland much the other day, recently. It's been off the cards, as has Panama.
Oh, yeah, he was going to grab the Panama Canal as well, wasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's focusing on other things like invading Iran.
Well, I mean, we're going to stick with the White House as the protagonist for our stories, but this time we're going to go with Elon Musk.
Oh, no, not Elon. He's had a little bit of falling out again with Trumpy Man.
Is he? Because they were licking each other's
deported.
botties a minute ago.
He's going to get deported.
Are they going to fuck him off to South Africa? That means they're going to make a grab for Starlink.
No, that's literally, I think there's an actual risk of that happening.
Yeah, I think that's on the
They're going to kick Musk out of the country. They're going to forcibly take over SpaceX and Starlink and sell Tesla to some of Trump's mates.
Or Putin, because he's quite tight with Trump.
Yeah.
So it'd be the best
happen.
Russian car ever made.
Yeah. I mean, it could happen. Can you
I
imagine?
could get a free Tesla because me and Putin are quite tight.
Well, you know, what's ludicrous? Trump yesterday or whenever it was when he was having a go at Musk was saying, I don't back this EV thing, this electric vehicle is all nonsense. Does he forget that 4 weeks ago he was using the White House as a bloody Tesla showroom car lot, promoting the products?
Yes, while he was receiving his free sport version.
I mean,
he's a wanker. I mean, they're all wankers.
I mean, he is a wanker, unfortunately. There's no other way of putting it.
Well, we're going to use Elon Musk. He's not central to this story, but he's relevant.
Does it include his ketamine addiction?
We can throw it in there. So, in 2015, well-known ketamine junkie Elon Musk
That was quick.
suggested nuking Mars as part of his plan to terraform the planet.
Nuking Mars? There's no
Yes.
one there. What's there to destroy?
No, to kickstart the Genesis effect for re-terraforming Mars. Don't you know your science? If you nuke something, everything grows lush and green and beautiful and oxygen appears. Because obviously that's what was in his fucking tiny little mind.
You're
What a
talking.
wanker. I'm going to nuke Mars and then we can all go and live there. Who wants to ride on my rocket? He's a fucking moron.
What? Hang on a second. Didn't he say that he was going to get to Mars this year or next year a few years ago?
They get to the moon first, bitch. Just stop talking about Mars because they're annoying me now. They're annoying me.
Oh.
Shockingly, though, this wasn't the first time someone suggested space nukes. In 1958, the US Air Force concocted a top secret plan to shoot a nuclear missile at the moon.
What? to mine the cheese that's living there.
Do you
or
know-
something.
I know we have American listeners, and I apologise because I know you're not all this fucking stupid. But for God's sake, just because something exists doesn't mean you have to shoot it.
What? Sorry, why did they want to nuke the moon?
Okay, there is a good reason. The
A good
reason was...
Why
well,
didn't they do it then?
there is a reason. I won't say
Yeah.
it's a good reason.
Yeah.
The reason was they wanted to outpace the Soviet Union in the space race following Russia's successful launch of Sputnik, which was obviously well in front of the Americans going into space.
Yeah, a year or two, but yeah, okay.
Now, it sounds made up, but Project A, don't you dare Google this, Project A119 was real. And it was declassified. Don't you? I can see you.
I'm not. I'm
You know
just
I've got a
writing it
camera
down
on
for
you.
future reference. A119. Google.
And it was declassified. Hey Siri.
Exactly.
It was declassified in 2000 in startling detail.
All right.
In the 1950s, the Cold War showdown between the US and the Soviet Union played out on several battlefields. Both global superpowers were flexing their nuclear power. In 1945, as we know, the US detonated the first nuclear bombs in history. Do you know the names of them? They were Little Boy
Big Bertha, Big Boy and Little Boy.
and the plane that carried them,
God, now I can't remember.
the Enola Gay.
Enola Gay. No, I can't remember that. I saw the film, man. It wasn't the Manhattan Project.
That was partly
film.
to do with the nuclear
Yeah.
program.
Yeah. Where did Enola Gay come from? Who was she? Or is it not a name? It is a name.
Well,
I can't
I
remember
don't
that.
know.
Oh,
But
an episode
Enola
of
is
another-
alone backwards.
You're right, it is. It's an anagram. Is that an anagram?
No, that's a palindrome. Oh no, a palindrome is one that spells the same backwards and
Backwards,
forwards.
yeah.
Whatever it is, it's backwards. I think it's just a
Right.
backwards word.
Okay.
The scientific expert term. Anyway, it didn't take long for the Soviets to catch up, and they first tested their nuclear weapons in 1949.
I wonder if they decided to nuke the moon to stop Russians going to the moon first.
Well, by the early 1950s, nuclear technology had advanced, and in 1952, the US tested its first hydrogen bomb, also known as a thermonuclear bomb.
Hmm.
Compared to the earlier atomic bombs, these hydrogen bombs were literally hundreds of times more powerful.
I can't remember the advantage other than the power, wasn't it? That they didn't destroy buildings
they didn't
and
destroy,
just killed everybody.
Yeah, they didn't do too much
Structural
physical damage.
Yeah.
In 1955, the Soviets caught up again, detonating their first thermonuclear weapon. So for the first decade of the nuclear arms race, the Soviets trailed behind the US, but that would change with the space race. In 1957, the Soviets sent the first satellite into orbit, known as Sputnik. The satellite sent a shockwave around the world. I don't know why, it just sent out a little bit of Morse code messaging.
I wonder if it was actually visible. I was watching a movie the other day about Sputnik.
Was it about Sputnik, or was it about the American son of a coal miner?
Yes. October
Sky.
Sky. What, you've seen it recently, have you?
Yeah, it's being featured on Netflix. So
Exactly.
I
I saw it. Yeah.
It's quite interesting. It's a true story.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. They reckon that you could see Sputnik. I mean, satellite, it was pretty bloody small.
Yeah, but the sky was a hell of a lot clearer in those 50s years.
Well, you didn't have Starlink scattered everywhere, that's for
And
sure.
we didn't have the pollution that we have today, light pollution.
Light pollution, yeah, because we certainly had pollution.
Yeah, but you could see the night sky and you could see the stars. Can you remember seeing stars in England ever?
No.
It's invisible because of the light pollution, the sky.
Mm.
I remember the first time I went abroad, and the first night I looked up in the sky, and I was just amazed at how many stars were visible in the sky.
Yeah, the Isle of Wight's not really abroad, though, is it, Andy?
What do you mean? I was the Isle of Dogs.
You got to the Isle of Dogs, did you? They wouldn't let you on the Isle of Wight.
Anyway, the Sputnik being up there made America realise how far behind it was in the space race. And so they launched this audacious top secret plan from 1958 that would put them back in the lead. In the months after Sputnik, the US Air Force opened a new project. Given the vague name of a study of lunar research flights, Project A119 was actually about detonating a nuclear bomb on the lunar surface.
Now, I think you've changed the name, or I've written it down wrong, because I wrote down A199.
No, A119. It was
See, I
from
would
the
have
beginning.
researched the wrong bloody thing, wouldn't I?
You might have found next week's project, not next week's subject. Many of the top nuclear scientists in the world worked for the Armour Research Foundation in Chicago. And they were all Germans, by the way, who came here under Operation Paperclip after the Second World War. So fuck you very much.
Is that...
Nazi scientists.
Was that the name of it? There was an actual operation, Paperclip.
Yeah.
God, dear.
Fucking awful way to recruit. Oh, we forgive everything you've done, you nasty people, as long as you come and tell us how to make the nastiest weapons in the world. Wankers. Leonard Rifle. My name is Leonard Rifle. I am a Nazi, Heil Hitler.
How many German listeners do you think we've got, Andy? Because if we did have any, they certainly stopped listening at that point. I apologise to all German listeners.
The Germans I know find it hilarious when we make jokes about Hitler. Unfortunately, you know. But he was one of those scientists, and just before launching Project A119, the Air Force reached out to leading scientists to ask what would happen if a nuclear bomb exploded on the moon. Now, this is like asking your experts what's going to happen with COVID, because they don't fucking know. They haven't got a clue, and they're just going to lie to make themselves sound clever.
You've managed to slip in environmental change hoax and COVID into an episode about nuking the moon.
Right. Well, you know me, I don't like to have the wool pulled over me eyes.
Oh dear.
Now, it wasn't...
Your eyes are so far up your arse you couldn't see a damn thing anyway.
This wasn't merely a hypothetical. The Air Force wanted to make sure that a nuclear blast on the moon would be visible from Earth.
Aha.
Now,
to show their prowess.
The entire point of Project A119 was to show the world that the US was ahead of the Soviet Union by blowing up the fucking moon. Genius. Fucking genius. Now, at this point...
How close did they get? How high did they go?
At this point, we didn't even know whether or not the moon was fucking inhabited. And these motherfuckers are talking about declaring war.
Is that what you suspect? What would it have been inhabited with? The Wombles? The
clangers.
The clangers. The clangers, that's right.
Think of all that soup.
No one will have a clue what you're talking about. We'll have to make a reference to the clangers.
Now, the team working on Project A119 decided to aim the bomb for the Terminator, which is the name of the line that separates the light and the dark sides of the moon. I mean, you can't aim a missile for the moon in the 50s.
You could probably see a nuclear blast on the surface of the moon with the naked eye, I reckon.
Probably. You'd see the flash.
Yeah.
The explosion would obviously...
Hang on. It's all bollocks. Surely an explosion requires oxygen,
No, not on a thermonuclear device.
doesn't it?
No, detonation is not a spark. It's a reaction between molecules.
Well, that's an interesting point. So a nuclear reaction doesn't require oxygen.
Nope. The
Yeah, but
explosion...
it's not gonna make flames, though, is it?
Actually, they create their own oxygen. The nuclear reaction creates its own perfect storm of molecules that it needs to actually expand.
All right.
So once you start a nuclear chain reaction, it's self-sustaining.
Well, obviously not. Otherwise, the bomb would have just carried on exploding.
Well, not to infinity, but indefinitely.
That's what they were worried about. That was what the film was about, wasn't it? They didn't know whether it was going to start a chain reaction that would
never end.
Never ending.
That was infinite. Now, the explosion would obviously be best on the dark side of the moon.
So we couldn't see it?
No, so you can see it better. Because in a black background, the flash would be massive. But the theory was that if the bomb exploded on the edge of the dark side and the light side, the mushroom cloud would be illuminated by the sun, explained her rifle.
Mm-hmm.
Her rifle's team also included a graduate student at the University of Chicago, Carl Sagan.
I don't think he was German.
He was a famous astronomer and planetary scientist, so he might not have been German. Sagan,
or Nazi.
Sagan crunched the numbers on the size of the mushroom cloud. Obviously, there were some major downsides to blasting the moon with thermonuclear weapons. For one, the blast would leave a massive crater that would forever alter the moon's surface. And for another, the detonation might trigger a bit of a public backlash. Well, yeah, you start blowing up space.
In fact,
Who the fuck gives anyone the right to start blowing up satellites and planets?
I don't think you need to start talking about rights, but if with the lack of gravity on the moon, the mushroom cloud would have been pretty enormous, wouldn't it?
It would also be omnidirectional. It wouldn't have the same form and shape that it has on the Earth. It might not even be a mushroom at all.
It might even reach the Earth.
Wouldn't that be funny if we all suffocated in moon dust because these fuckers wanted to prove that they were bigger, they had a bigger cock than the Russians? When Project A119 became public in the year 2000, British nuclear historian David Lowry, not the artist, heavily criticised the plan. Oh, well done you. It is obscene to think that the first contact human beings would have had with another world would have been to explode a nuclear bomb on it.
What?
Said
What is
Lowry.
it if they're English, they sound as if they've gone to Eton, Harrow, and Cambridge, and if they're German, it's they served in the worst regiment in the German army during the Second World War.
You have to keep sustaining your stereotypes.
I was going to say.
Now, but scientists also saw a possible upside
And that
because
was?
the bombing might actually reveal something about lunar chemistry or the moon's internal structure when they blew it in half.
You're going to see a bit of the internal structure with a bloody great big hole in the moon.
Her rifle explained that the plan included placing instruments on the moon's surface to measure the effects. First of all, no one had been or even claimed to have been to the moon at this
close
point.
to it.
But He cautioned the Air Force about Project A119's unintended fallout. I made it clear at the time there would be a huge cost to science of destroying a pristine lunar environment. But the US Air Force were mainly concerned about how the nuclear explosion would play on Earth, said Rifle. But Project A119 was all about the public reaction anyway. If a nuclear bomb had detonated on the lunar surface, billions of people back on Earth would have seen the mushroom cloud. And the Soviets would know that one way or another, the Americans had beaten them to the moon. What would have happened if the Air Force actually carried out Project A119?
How would they have got there?
Well, I mean, they wouldn't have to get there. They would have to get the bomb there.
No, but that's what I mean.
Yeah, but
how would they get a bomb
that's
all
neither
the
here
way
nor
from
there.
planet Earth to the moon?
This is the same people who were going to build 52,000 square miles of tunnels under Greenland. They can do anything. So it almost certainly would have sent the space race in a very different direction. Instead of racing to put a man on the moon, the Cold War rivals would have just continued their nuclear competition. I'm horrified that such a gesture to sway public opinion was ever even considered, Rifle said in 2000. Had the project been made public, there would have been an outcry. Ultimately, as we know, it didn't happen. And today, the plan to nuke the moon sounds fucking insane. But in the fervour of the Cold War project, Project A119 had very many supporters.
Here's a question for you. With the likes of Musk knocking around today, what is the likelihood that some of those satellites actually contain
very 100% that they contain spyware
or
nuclear devices, EMPs? There is all sorts of shit, electromagnetic pulses to destroy other people's electronic capabilities.
Don't you think that is, you just open the hatch doors and out drops this thermonuclear device?
Yeah.
All it's got to do is survive the atmosphere.
It does, and it's got nothing to kill it up there.
Because the thing is that it's not going to attract defense systems if it's dropping from the sky.
No, it's not traveling inbound.
Exactly. It's just dropping from the sky. They think it's a meteorite or something. What had that got to do with Musk? Not much, actually.
Well, yeah, because he wanted to nuke Mars.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, sorry, there was a reference. He wanted to nuke Mars.
Because he's a genius.
He is a bit of a genius, actually, Elon.
Is he, though?
Even though he's going to get deported to South Africa. Can you imagine if he gets deported back to South Africa?
You know what'll happen? They'll recruit him for the Labour Party. They will. Fuck me, Keir Starmer would have his tongue so far up his arse. Honestly, he'd be a British citizen before you know it. They might even get him his own boat from France so that he could arrive in style.
He could arrive in style.
Now, days before launching Sputnik into orbit...
Oh, there's more. I thought we'd finish.
Yes, no, you won't let me finish. But quite rightly, this is interesting stuff. Days before launching Sputnik into orbit and taking the lead in the space race, the Soviets tested their first ICBM, or Intercontinental Ballistic Missile. The new missile technology made it possible for the Soviets to rain nuclear bombs down on US territory. And an ICBM carried Sputnik into space, showing the technology's reach.
Is that right?
Yes.
So, sorry, Sputnik was effectively carried up on a similar device to what was...
It was a carrier for a nuclear device. It was basically a missile. But aren't all rockets missiles?
Yeah, but they're not intercontinental. They don't go out.
No,
out
they're
of the Earth's
interplanetary.
atmosphere.
But they can. Yeah. That's the point. If you point them in the right direction, they can leave the Earth's atmosphere.
If you point them up.
Is that always the right direction?
Oh, I think it helps. I think it's a good start. Point it up.
So with the Soviets launching satellites on ICBMs, the Air Force saw sending nuclear weapons into space as the next logical step.
Yeah, that's clearly.
The West
Who wouldn't?
The West was given a shock with the launch of Sputnik, and very quickly the US government flew into action and said we needed to do something very spectacular, explains historian Vince Horton. We need to do something so big that the whole world will know that this was just an anomaly, that Sputnik was just a blip, but that the United States is still the big kid on the block. Fortunately, the US ultimately decided to focus on manned space travel, imaginary, rather than blasting the moon with nukes. And as we know, that all ended up with the biggest fake hoax thing ever perpetrated on people on this
We've covered this, Andy. The problem with these podcasts with you is that even when you're faced with indisputable evidence...
There is no evidence. There is no evidence of a man ever walking on the moon. Fucking no.
No, but all of your evidence to the contrary was just a load of bollocks.
You cannot
Those
prove to me...
stupid grainy photographs of something that you claim was a set light or something.
And those,
from the studio.
Those stupid live television pictures in 1969
exactly
of a
I
man
remember
actually
staying up.
walking on the moon, and I couldn't even get Sky in my flat in London in the 90s.
Look, don't you remember the night where it happened? I remember staying up. I was allowed.
There was
to
no
stay
staying
to
up.
watch
I
it.
remember watching it at school.
No,
We watched it in the classroom at school.
no.
We watched some of it. It was on TV in school, in the classroom.
I remember sitting in front of the TV.
Maybe
in
the
gym
actual fake landing was at night, but it was covered for days on the TV.
Graham Burke, Raymond Burke.
Raymond Burke was the Tomorrow's World guy.
Yeah, and wasn't he the one who was doing the commentary on the moon landing?
I don't know. I was like 6 years old.
I was 7 years old.
But anyway, that brings us to the end of this week's episode, which is titled Secret American Projects.
Yeah, I mean, it is incredible what people expend energy on, but
and money, millions of dollars.
Yeah, billions of dollars. When you think about it, all right, so you say it's all fake, but anyway, it was out of basically a peeing contest. It was basically ego that drove America to do it. And though, one can basically say that ego is the cause of 99% of the world's problems, it did actually, in this case, forward technology to a great extent.
It certainly gave Hollywood a leg up.
Yeah, technology in film.
Yeah,
film and
the
special
green
effects.
screen was invented.
Oh dear. No,
Anyway,
you're right.
Thanks for listening, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. I hope it's recorded better than last week's episode.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
The episode we had last week from Murdery Bits, I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, you can find many more on our Patreon site.
Yeah.
Patreon.com/strange stuff podcast. That's the one.
The only downside with the Patreon account is you don't get to enjoy my dulcet tones.
I would pay to have you excluded from this podcast. So in my opinion, it's great value for money, and it's not a lot of money. So go and check it out. In the meantime, have yourselves a strange week. If you're going to do anything revolutionary or scientific this week, try not to blow up the fucking moon, because nobody is going to appreciate it, least of all the clangers.
Or Greenland.
Or Greenland. Don't dig under Greenland. 52,000 square miles of tunnels, because Greenland will reclaim it. Have yourselves a great week. We'll see you the same time next week. Be good. I don't know what else to say. Goodbye for now.
Yep. Very good. Cheerio for now.